A very good evening, everyone. Namaste and welcome to Citti Media. I'm joined by Cleo Paskal today for a conversation. She is a non-resident scholar fellow for the Indo-Pacific at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, a senior fellow at the Usinus Foundation, fellow at the Canadian Global Affairs Institute, a collaborator at the Network for Strategic Analysis, and she's also on the advisory board, international advisory board rather, for the Kalinga Institute of Indo-Pacific and Global Counterterrorism Council. She specializes in strategic issues in the Indo-Pacific. Kyoji, thank you so much for joining me. Namaste and how are you?
Namaste. It's a great pleasure. I've enjoyed watching your channel and have learned quite a lot from the incredible people you have on. So it's a privilege and a pleasure to be with you.
It's a privilege and a pleasure to have you here on the show. Let me begin by asking you about what's going on in your home country, Canada, because that is something that's taken all of us by surprise. Because just a few months ago, when we had the farmers' protest in India, which also had several elements which we won't get into, the Canadian government, especially Prime Minister Trudeau, stood up for the rights of Indian farmers, and he said that Canada, as a democracy, will protect and stand up for democratic rights of the underprivileged across the world. And right now, you see an emergency being declared. What has gone wrong?
Right. So this is quite something for me because, as you know, I look a lot at undemocratic countries like China, for example, and so I deal with people who are being persecuted by their own systems, but Chinese in Canada, for example, who have to exhibit a lot of bravery to talk about what's going on in China. And suddenly I kind of found myself in a very minor way starting to worry about whether I should self-censor about what I had to say about my own country. Because the methods being used by the government were in some ways reminiscent of the sort of methods that were used in other countries, like, for example, China, where you don't really know where the line is, and if you cross the line, the repercussions can be quite severe. So, for example, in one case that was brought up by one member of parliament, one of their constituents sent $50 to support the trucker convoy at a time when it was legal and found her bank accounts frozen. Now, she didn't have the information to know when she made that $50 donation that that was something that would be risky. That gray zone area what took everybody by surprise. And so that makes you want to just shut down and not say anything. And it's that kind of internal self-censorship that becomes very, very dangerous in a democracy. It's whether you agree with the policies or not, whether you agree with the protests or not, the idea of putting in these policies that have no clear boundaries, that haven't really been properly discussed. Nobody knew what the Emergency Act was when it was put in place, creates a climate of fear and division that was extraordinary, happened very, very quickly. So the Emergency Act has been kind of taken away, but the reports are still that people who had their bank accounts frozen, there was testimony recently, that will be on their record for their whole lives. Okay. So it creates a situation where unless there is a change in government policy, they've injected that fear of protest into the system that wasn't there before. It changes the dynamic of the relationship between the citizen and the state. And for some, it ruptures the social contract. So it was a cataclysmic event, I'd say, for Canadian polity, and the repercussions are going to be quite long-standing.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.